welcome again to this this celebration of food and art, which really sort of bounces off Monet. And really, for Monet, it was only at his house at Giverny, which he came across in 1883. It was only there that he was really able to establish the sort of life that he wanted to lead. This was where his ideas about food took shape, and his wife, Alice Ochede, was their principal interpreter. They liked to serve beautifully prepared dishes using whatever the kitchen garden or the farmyard could supply. It was their food, it was homemade, but it often used recipes from great restaurants and dishes created by their friends, who included writers, art collectors, painters, and actors. Family meals, special celebrations, lunch with friends, picnics, they all reflected the Monet's love of food. And the guests, a very, very impressive list of guests, including fellow Impressionists, in particular Renoir, Pissarro, Sisley, Degas, and Cézanne, and also Rodin, Whistler, don't know about his mother, Maupassant, Valéry, and one of Monet's closest friends, the great statesman Clemenceau. They came to what was almost a ritual. First, they'd visit Monet's studios and the greenhouses. They'd then have lunch at 11:30. They always lunched early so that Monet could make the most of the afternoon light. Tea would be served under the lime trees or near the pond, and guests were never invited to dinner. And this was because Monet went to bed very early in order to rise at dawn and to get the dawn light. And the recipes that he collected in his cooking journals included dishes that he'd encountered on his travels or come across at restaurants in Paris, as well as recipes from friends. There was a bouillabaisse from Cézanne, there were petits pains from Millet, and they served tarte tatin, which was a recipe that they got from the Tatin sisters themselves. So, to celebrate the marriage of food and art, we're joined by two artists. So, please welcome, I don't know, you probably already welcomed us, but Michael Zavros and Nell. I mean, let me begin for both of you with what I suppose is a bit of a Mickey Mouse question to ask any sort of artist, but what, if any, are the connections that you see between creating a meal and creating a work of art? Or is creating a meal creating a work of art? Michael?
I think it is creating a work of art. I mean, artists are famous for trying to create this sort of sensory experience that they pass on to people, and I think it you know, to that end, it comes naturally to artists to try and create a dish that they would serve to people. And I mean, good cooking sort of incorporates all of the senses, and I think you can make lots of analogies between the kind of art that I try to make and the kind of cooking that I try to make.
Well, I mean, your art is, I was going to say realistic, but it's really sort of hyper-real. Yep. What are the connections between that and the food that you cook?
Well, the food that I cook, or that I cook to serve other people, has to look good, and hopefully it will taste good. But I suppose, in a very artistic way, obsessed with how it looks. That has to be this sort of this visual feast. And I work from photography as a painter and a drawer and a sculptor, but I'm always looking at the photographic image and trying to replicate that. And I do a similar thing with my cooking. I select recipes the image appeals to me, and I go to strange lengths to try and get it to look exactly like the photograph.
What about you, Nell? What's your approach?
Well, for me, the main similarities between cooking food and making art is you get to make a big mess and really enjoy that messiness, and for your body to relate to the colours and the materiality, whether it's, you know, the textures of food and how they might go together, sit together, and the nature of materials and how they might go together. And I don't really know if there's such a direct correlation between the kind of food I make and the artwork I make as Michael, which I can really see in his work. But for me, probably the thing that links my attitude to food and my attitude to my work is to really keep it simple and let the materials speak, or the produce itself speak, and not to do too much to it. I actually really love like raw vegetables and raw fruit.
Well, the great English food writer Jane Grigson said the secret of good cooking was to get the best possible ingredients and do as little to them.
Exactly.
And for professional reasons lately, I've been visiting a lot of very, very bad restaurants. And one of the signs of a bad restaurant is they have to muck the bloody food around. They just won't let it be. Michael, tell us about the Greek Easter and its food, and what the food of a Greek Easter means to you.
Well, I have to admit to only being half Greek, so I would go to my.
It's obviously the half with the mouth and the stomach.
Exactly, but I'd go to my aunt's place with my dad's sisters that all married Greek, and would still make these great Greek Easters, and there was such elaborate feasts. There was such like a feast for the eyes as much as they were everything else, and that's always stayed with me. The amazing colours and flavours.
Where do the colours come from? What colours do you retain in the mind's eye?
The dominant colour would be that amazing red that you dye the eggs with. I mean, Greek Easters are so famous for these dyed eggs that everyone plays this game after the breaking the fast, and knocks eggs with their partner until there's one unbroken egg left. So red is a very predominant Easter colour. But obviously all the colours of the rainbow are in good cooking and cuisine. So yeah.
And talking about religion, Nell, tell us about eating at the Buddhist meditation centre at Wiseman's Ferry.
Well, eating, I attend these crazy meditation retreats where you get up at 4:30 in the morning and you don't speak for a week. And the eating at these retreats is very ritualised. There's no speaking to organise it. You have 3 bowls, and the food is filled into the bowls, and you indicate that you want more by going like this, and that means, don't fill my bowl anymore. And after you finish eating, you're welcome to have seconds, but you have to eat everything that you're given. And then after that, tea is poured into the bowls, and with the tea you drink it, and you literally clean it with the tea, and then wrap the bowls back into the like an origami style placemat, and it's very ritualised and incredibly beautiful.
You strike me as a person for whom not speaking for a week would be more of a privation than not having meat. But how do you manage that?
No, it's really such an abundant thing to do, to not speak, to slow down your mind and your thoughts, and to become unattached to language. I mean, your brain still goes a million miles an hour, but just in those little gaps again, like the gaps in the piano sounds, you can start to see like blades of grass and taste brown rice on your tongue, and just be present to beautiful small things.
Michael, I described your pictures as hyper-real, and very often you take images from the world of fashion advertising and make use of those. There's a genre of publication that for about the last 20, 25 years has been known as the gastro-porn magazine, which shows you pictures of beautiful dishes just gagging for it. You know, it's have you ever thought, or have you actually ever turned your attention to the excesses of food display in advertising and magazines?
I don't think I've ever painted food. Lots of great artists have. Australian artist Stephen Bush has done some beautiful images of beautiful photoreal paintings of gorgeous cuisine found in like Vogue entertaining magazines. The sort of where paint and profiteroles kind of blend beautifully and creating that sort of double desire of this delicious thing to look at and taste. No, I don't think I've ever actually painted from that cooking porn, as you call it.
Nell, does food feature in your work?
It does. Well, fruit features in my work.
Yes.
And in the book you can see a sculpture that I've made of an apple and an orange, and both the apple and orange have smiley faces on them, and they're made of bronze, gold bronze. And I've made installations where I've drawn smiley faces on on every orange on the tree. And lots of my work features the symbol of an egg, which is symbol of not just really the food, but more fertility and a rebirth of a self in some ways. So Michael's painted many roosters, which are an edible, as I've attested to, edible item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not for eating that rooster though. He's for display only though.
Okay.
It's a show rooster.
The show rooster,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Michael, you've and this sort of tangentially applies to food, but you've talked about a return of beauty in art. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
I can't get away from beauty, and which is anathema to so much contemporary practice, I think, or at least it has been. I can't not seek to create something that is beautiful to look at or contains something beautiful, whether that's conceptual or aesthetically so. And I can't help but contrive my work to be that way, or things that I do daily or that I cook to be pleasing to look at, or to gain some enjoyment from the looking.
Beauty important to you, Nell?
What else is there? Yeah, I think as artists, and especially artists in this book, all of us love it all. We love art, we love architecture, we love clothes, we love food, we're sensualists, we love sex. It's really apparent. There's the other camp of artists who probably, go to 7-Eleven for a snack. Not the artists in the book. We go to, I get on my bike and ride to David Jones Food Hall to get figs as soon as they're in season, So I think for me the beauty of all things is to be celebrated, and I'm not afraid of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other camp of artists is probably represented by Mark Rothko. Mark Rothko did some famous murals for the top of the Seagram building in New York, and there was a big falling out between him and the owners of the building, and it never happened. But he went to the restaurant. I can't remember the name of the restaurant. Four Seasons, I think. He went to the restaurant, which he hardly ever did because he just had takeaway normally. He was the 7-Eleven kind of guy, and he said people who eat this sort of food at these sort of prices will never appreciate my art. And I've always wondered, and sadly we can't ask him, whether the emphasis there is on this sort of food or these sort of prices. If you could have that sort of food at McDonald's prices, would that make it okay? But there does seem to have been a single-minded sort of detachment in his mind. It was the visual that mattered to him. it was the personal expression, abstract expressions, personal expression of his art that mattered to him, and other sensual pleasures obviously didn't.
Well, from what I know of his practice, he was quite private, and well, from what I understand of, Michael and I have shared many meals in Paris together and in Sydney and Brisbane. And to go back to your first question about how food and art might be integrated, and it's really about sharing, to share meals with people, to share what the earth has provided. And one of the great pleasures in being an artist is to see people enjoy your work. And to share even that dialogue then with other artists, which contributes to new works. And that's poor Mark Rothko.
I think that's true, isn't it, Michael? Cooking for other people is always more fun than just cooking for yourself.
Yeah, cooking for yourself is, or for me, is often, I always think about it as putting petrol in the tank so that I can keep working. Keep going. It's I tend to create for others much more than for myself.
Let me just close by asking both of you whether you have favourite representations of food in art. Michael.
I saw this beautiful still life by Caravaggio. I think it's the only still life that he did in Milan, which I just loved. It was incredibly beautiful. It's you sort of had that sense that you wanted to pick up the fruit and touch the objects that he'd assembled. I thought that was absolutely unbelievable.
And I'll join in with Michael and say probably, Dutch still lives with the flowers and the fruit and the insects, where they all seem to just be so alive but so trapped in time, and that they really reflect our own impermanence. They're the paintings.
Well, that's the interesting thing about a lot of the Dutch art is that often it's what's known as vanitas paintings. They're telling you, this fruit which looks ripe, very often it's a little overripe. Yeah. It's starting to split, and it's telling you, precisely as you say, it's about impermanence. It's not going to last.
So enjoy every meal.
Absolutely, enjoy every meal. I think that's such a good note to end on.